Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm going to be reacting to Spiritual versus Worldly Life, How to Reconcile Karma Yoga. I didn't mean to pick Karma Yoga, I really got to the point of Spiritual versus Worldly Life, How to Reconcile. Missed the Karma Yoga part, but still, it's fine. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Why specifically Karma though? I guess karma is kind of the more obvious one in terms of there's a direct connection to worldly life. Your thoughts and your physical actions is directly related to the material world. Knowledge kind of is too, but meditation definitely not. I think that's the reason why well, actually bhakti as well. Anyways.
Here are two questions from Sujata, who lives in Andhra Pradesh, India. First, she asks, how can we work without expecting any results, as Karma Yoga teaches us? We act to achieve desired ends.
Interesting. Sorry to pause it so soon, but again, this is the thing that I learned back in college in my world religion class when I was whenever it was on the subject of Buddhism, where our teacher said to get, in a sense, do 110% and expect nothing from it. And the way I phrased it is expect nothing but hope for the best. You know, and again, this is the thing that really changed my perspective in life a lot. Is to I mean, don't get me wrong, I still fall for the trap, the illusions, but not as much.
Without desire, why would we act in the first place? That's a really good question. But there's a small problem with language here. Many scriptures and spiritual teachers tell us to act without desiring the results of our deeds. But they don't say we should act without expecting any results. Suppose your car had a dead battery. Would you try to drive it anyway, without expecting it to work? No one acts without expecting results. To act without desiring results of your deeds is part of the practice of Karma Yoga. To act without desire is called nishkama karma in Sanskrit. Nishkama means the absence of kama, desire. But as Sujata said, without desire, why would we act in the first place? To understand this, we first have to recognize that desire is the main obstacle to contentment in life. Why do you do whatever you do each day? Psychologists say that you want to minimize physical and emotional discomfort and maximize the pleasure you experience. From a spiritual point of view, we could say that you seek inner peace and perfect contentment.
Perfect contentment. That's the life I try to live. And I know in most people's lives probably, they're not seeking contentment, they're seeking excitement. I can't remember who said this. I think it was Swami Tadatmananda here. It says the problem is people yeah, it was in fact him. He said that people continue to seek excitement or thrills and continue to seek that. And that's the problem, is the fact that they're not content with something, so they continue to seek excitement and more excitement and more excitement. And something that I've also said is the fact that you keep like, this is your contentment, a little bit of excitement. Then in order to get that little bit of excitement, you have to do a little bit more. Because what's here is what you're used to, and then your excitement's here, but then all of a sudden you do the same activity and your contentment, now you're content with what used to be exciting, and now what used to be exciting is no longer exciting, it's contentment, so you have to keep going up and up and up and up and up until to the point where it's difficult to find something exciting.
Contentment is defined as a state of satisfaction, like when your hunger is satisfied, or when you finally get the salary increase you've been asking for. As long as you're hungry or waiting for your pay raise, you experience desire. And to some extent, that desire robs you of contentment. Perfect contentment can be enjoyed only in the complete absence of unfulfilled desires. Even a single unfulfilled desire, like not getting your usual cup of tea or coffee in the morning, it's enough to spoil your contentment or even make you miserable. The problem is, new desires arise each and every day. After eating a wonderful meal at your favorite restaurant, you feel hungry again in only a few hours. After getting a substantial pay raise, when your household expenses increase, you'll want an even higher salary. After satisfying one desire, you feel content for a while, but it's only a matter of time until new desires arise and your contentment fades away. Trying to fulfill all your desires is like chasing a horizon that keeps receding from you. When will the day come when you're completely free from all desires and you can finally rest in peace? According to the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedantic scriptures, perfect peace and contentment are gained not by fulfilling desires, but by discovering your true nature, the inner self, Atma, which is innately full and complete, perfect, divine. The discovery of your true inner divinity culminates in enlightenment, a state of total contentment. Based on this, any attempt to gain total contentment simply by fulfilling desires is futile, doomed to failure. And when you recognize the utter futility of fulfilling desires, your focus in life will shift dramatically. Instead of striving only to fulfill desires, you'll begin to strive for spiritual growth and enlightenment. Imagine how this dramatic shift could change your attitude towards day-to-day activities. Instead of being focused only on fulfilling desires, you'll be drawn towards spiritual practices that can help you gain enlightenment. But that doesn't mean you'll abandon all your usual activities and take up an austere life of full-time prayer, meditation, and scriptural study. You know very well that if you fail to follow Dharma and fulfill your duties, the consequences will be terrible. And those consequences would ultimately make your pursuit of enlightenment much more difficult. Instead, you'll continue to carry out your duties, but with a radical shift of attitude. You'll fulfill your duties because it's essential for your spiritual growth. Fulfilling your duties is actually part of your spiritual practice, the practice of karma yoga. We'll discuss how this practice works shortly. Back to Sujata's question. To act without desire means to act not to fulfill desires, but to fulfill your duties, to follow Dharma as part of your spiritual practice. This is a radical shift of attitude we discussed before.
This can almost be seen as like doing things for others instead of doing things for yourself. Swami Sarvapriyananda talks about, in terms of the materialistic worlds, the three things that gives people pleasure: doing things for yourself, doing a job, and then doing things for others. So buying things for yourself is very short-term happiness. Doing a job, something meaningful, lasts a bit longer. but doing things for other people makes you happier the longest. But Swami Sarvapriyananda says the fourth thing is the enlightenment, discovering one's true self.
Here, you might object that even after this shift of attitude, you'll still be driven by desire, by the desire for enlightenment. That's absolutely true. You'll be driven by desire because without desire, you won't act at all. But this desire, the desire for enlightenment, is utterly unlike worldly desires. The fulfillment of worldly desires simply leads to more and more desires. But a firm desire for enlightenment can engage you in a life of spiritual practice that ultimately leads beyond all desires to a state of perfect contentment. Sujata begins her second question with an observation. Nowadays, worldly activities consume most of our time. If a spiritual path requires practices like meditation, not much time is available. Few people would disagree with her. Modern life is hectic and demanding. Yet, if your ultimate goal is enlightenment, you'd probably want to devote as much time and effort to it as possible. And you might try to minimize the time you spend fulfilling your duties so that you have more time for meditation and other practices. That might seem like a reasonable approach, but it creates a serious conflict. A conflict between worldly activities and spiritual practice.
Him speaking about that actually made me think about something, and something that it just literally just before recording this video I was doing, and I was thinking about now, and I remember doing. I'm doing some painting, and I realized I was getting frustrated because the color scheme is not right. And as I was doing that, I was thinking to myself of understanding why. I understand why, but it still was frustrating. But I was thinking of solutions to fix the problem. And him saying between worldly activities and spiritual practice, that's perfect example of me getting a bit frustrated about things not coming together. Isn't anything major, it's just like, it was just frustrating. But then thinking about that's a great way to practice removing that frustration, to not removing but separating from the frustration. I do, like I said many times in this video, I've been able to remove myself from my emotions to a degree. What I mean by remove, I mean I'm able to separate myself from the emotions, not remove it, but also to minimize that emotion so that it's not as powerful, it's not as gripping to me. I think that can help with a lot of people's meditation. This is that if that emotion, they can easily separate from the emotion if they're able to, if it doesn't grip you very well and you're able to understand it. But it takes practice and it takes time to do that, and I'm still at the beginning stages of it, obviously, because it's still gripping me to some degree. But I think that's a great practice. Now that he talks about that, I think he's probably going to get into it, but to anytime you get frustrated with something, that's a perfect time to try to, I guess, realize or separate yourself from the emotion. Not necessarily get rid of it, but to understand and have a bit of separation. It's weird. I don't know how else to describe that separation other than to realize that the emotion and you are different. That's about the best way I can put it. And to have that middle ground, as I call it, is to understand your emotion and then to separate it. To understand it reduces the impact of it and makes the separation a bit easier, I think.
Whatever time you devote to fulfilling your duties is not available for spiritual practice, and vice versa. Yet both are crucial. I struggled a lot with this conflict in my late 20s, when I was still working as an engineer. Back then, I would get up early in the morning and devote a full 2 hours to my daily routine of prayer, meditation, and scriptural study. I was proud of myself for being so dedicated, and my spiritual pride was certainly a problem.
I guess that's another thing, is the fact that is trying so hard to do something is probably not going to help you achieve what you're trying to do. In terms of worldly stuff, it does, but I have a feeling in the spiritual world, it doesn't quite. I do believe it have to come naturally for the most part. There has to be a try, but there can't be so much of a try where it becomes a distraction away from your goal.
In fact, my efforts were actually misdirected. Each day, I spent my first 2 hours engaged in spiritual activities, and then I spent the next 14 or more hours engaged in non-spiritual activities, mostly in work and visiting friends. Which of those activities, do you think, had a greater effect on me? It's a matter of arithmetic. I had failed to understand a basic principle of karma yoga. A karma yogi is one who erases the boundary between worldly and spiritual life and learns to use worldly activities for the sake of spiritual growth. Obviously, I wasn't a skillful karma yogi at that time.
And this is the reason why I'm saying I'm not getting into inner engineering just yet. Just because I don't think it's if I take it now, it's gonna be a complete and utter disaster. I don't think it's the right time just yet. And trust me, I want to start on it right away, but it must be a right time. Otherwise, it's just a complete waste. No matter how much you want to do something, if it's not quite right, it's not going to work. But of course, you cannot put it off indefinitely. You cannot procrastinate forever. That is not good either. I do have plans for it. It's gonna happen within a year, I'm hoping. I'm hoping sometime in the first half of next year. At the earliest, honestly. And yeah. There was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember now.
Sujata seems to understand karma yoga much better than I did back then, because she goes on to ask, how can we make our day-to-day activities themselves contribute to our spiritual progress? Excellent question. One answer found in the Bhagavad Gita is simply this: do your duty, follow dharma, and live a righteous life. A dharmic lifestyle helps in 2 ways. First, it helps accumulate good karma and avoid the bad ones. The doctrine of karma shows how bad karmas can obstruct your efforts in every aspect of life, including spiritual practice. Good karmas, on the other hand, can help remove such obstacles. The second way a dharmic lifestyle contributes to spiritual progress is this: desires have the power to distract, to entice you with a multitude of worldly pleasures, and draw you away from being focused on spiritual growth. This power of desire can be greatly diminished by consistently choosing to fulfill your duties instead of choosing to fulfill your desires. Each time you deliberately choose to follow dharma instead of pursuing worldly desires, you increase the strength of your will and weaken the grip of those desires. Then, without being troubled by worldly desires, you can pursue enlightenment. In addition to living a dharmic life, the Bhagavad Gita also stresses the need to cultivate a prayerful attitude towards everything you do each day. This devotional attitude is another important aspect of karma yoga. But we'll have to save that topic for another time. A final comment. The level of effort required to reach any goal depends on the goal. A small goal, like to prepare dinner, requires a small effort. And a big goal, like getting a college degree, requires a big effort. But enlightenment isn't just a big goal. It's immense, off the chart, so to speak. To reach such a goal, what level of effort is required? Clearly, anything short of a full-time effort won't be enough. Fortunately, full-time spiritual practice isn't limited to those who renounce worldly life and live in secluded ashrams. Full-time spiritual practice is possible for any karma yogi, anyone who uses their day-to-day activities for the sake of spiritual growth. For those karma yogis, life itself is a spiritual practice. This is the 7th video in a series that answers questions submitted by viewers. If you have a question that would serve as a good topic for a video like this one, please email me at this address, and be sure to indicate video question as the subject of the email. I'll try to address your question in a future video.
I've been saying I need to email him, and I definitely need to. I need to do a better job of gathering my questions and gathering my information, all the things I've learned. I'm trying to keep it in my mind, and like I said, I don't remember precise things, but I remember general ideas. And the thing that he talks about karma yoga and doing about your everyday business, which is something Dandapani has said, which is actually he says meditation, but same thing though, same thing applies. Video over with, I'm talking. Is the fact that I guess, is it? Yeah, you can actually practice all the yogas in your everyday life. I would say meditation is a bit of a tough one again, but that's me personally. Meditation is, as far as I can tell, the most difficult personally of the different karma or yogas. Karma is something that I've been doing. Bhakti, not so much, but I look at it in a different way, as in I devote myself to better myself and to better the world in some small way. Now, Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of realizing oneself, I've never done that. Neither have I done for Raja Yoga as well. Even though I consider myself, I would consider myself Jnana, but I think it's more, I do more Bhakti. I would say honestly more karma than anything, but it's not towards a god. It's more towards myself and those around me, basically. That's all I can affect. It's people around me. I can't affect people halfway across the world or even next, the town next over. Not so much while I'm right here. So I can only do what I can do where I'm at with what I've got. But yes. Now, Jnana, I want to learn that. Just realizing, I do that a little bit. It's the separation of my, Jnana is supposed to be a learning that I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, so that you can come down to the conclusion that you are not these things and to realize what you are. And that's something I do kind of with my emotions. I've said before, but that's the only thing I think I've done so far. Again, like I said, I cannot separate myself from my actions yet, my thoughts and my physical actions, just because I honestly refuse, just because I must take responsibility for my actions. But like he said here, it's the fact that you must still abide by your dharma, your role in life. So maybe understanding it that way will help me actually help me reduce my grip on karma yoga, in terms of the fact I can separate my actions from myself and realize that my actions still must comply with Dharma yoga. What am I thinking? With Dharma, your duties in life. Although like, I guess the one question would be, what are these duties? Where did they come from? Or do you create your own? I've always created my own, which is my duties. Like, do my work, do what makes me happy, do what, not be irritable from other people or irritate other people. Just be myself, really. Be honest. And I guess that's it, really. Be happy. Present myself happy. Help people if I can. Be honest. To myself and to other people. That's about it. And if other people are irritated by that, then I can't help that. I'd rather be honest and them be irritated than me lie to their face about it. Where does your duty come from? Is it something that's given to you outside of your job? Outside of the things that are required you from life, but from yourself, where is your duty? What is your own personal duty? I guess that's the question. Let me know in the comments below. Like, I get your job as a duty. I get your duty as a father, a son, a mother, a daughter, a child, a citizen, whatever it may be. But what about a duty to yourself? Your own personal duties. Where does that come from? Let me know if you can answer that. Let me know. If you can't, just let me know either. Like, let me know if you've thought about that or not. It'll also let me know that you stayed this entire time listening to me talk to you, unbelievably so. Anyways, that's my reaction to spiritual versus worldly life, how to reconcile karma yoga. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next vid.